Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, State Senator Yvanna Cancela joins us. She's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always delighted to welcome back to the program State Senator Yvanna Cancela. She's the co-majority whip, and she comes from District 10. Pleasure to have you back on the program, ma'am.
Good to be here, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. You were present at the Interim Finance Committee meeting the other day. Can you tell us what came out of it that perhaps wasn't reported by the press at this point?
Yep. So the Interim Finance Committee is tasked with ensuring that we are able to meet our both our current budget demands and that we end with the appropriate ending fund balance as we head into the next legislative session, which is why we meet throughout the interim and even during the legislative session. As a result of the pandemic, as you can imagine, and as has been widely discussed, we're going to have some serious budget issues, not only as we finish up this fiscal year, but as we head into the next fiscal year. So we have been meeting more so than in other years to talk about the budget. And this week we met on Monday to talk about what money we need to make sure that we can cover our current expenses and close out the biennium. Close out the current fiscal year, which ends on July 1st. The governor began these discussions a few weeks ago when he initiated cuts throughout our state government. And those cuts are necessary to make sure that we stay in the black, for lack of a better description. As the Interim Finance Committee, we discussed this week how to use the rainy day funds to continue to cover expenses for public service programs like Medicaid, like K-12 education. And we ultimately voted to draw down the entirety of the $400 million in the rainy day fund to cover those expenses and make sure we can pay our bills.
The Republicans obviously were not happy at all with the draining of the fund without a plan revealed to them of how the money was going to be spent. What are your thoughts about that and the fact that it was a straight line party vote?
I thought there was a valid discussion in the meeting about the need for oversight and transparency. I also thought there were really good points about the need to move as quickly and expeditiously as possible. And while it may have been a party line vote, there was a lot of agreement that ultimately we needed these dollars and that inevitably we were going to draw down the entirety of these dollars. And I thought the speaker made what was probably the best metaphor for understanding what we were doing, which was simply moving the $400 million from our savings to our checking account to make sure we can cover our bills. There's no doubt that we will be getting constant reports from both the legislative fiscal staff and the governor's finance office on where these dollars are going, on how they're being spent. What we know today is that our budget is based off of projections. So it's difficult to itemize precisely how much X program is going to cost, but we know that without the revenue that we typically rely on in both the sales tax and room tax revenue, that we're in a serious shortfall, and we have a responsibility to continue to fund these programs.
Are you concerned that because of the politics now in D.C. over the CARES Act, the House dropped the bill last week, but the Senate is not looking in any way that they're going to pick this up anytime soon, that's going to result in layoffs at the state level, the county level, and the city levels across Nevada?
I spend a lot of time every day thinking about how we can be as nimble and as creative as possible to keep folks in their jobs. It's unfortunate that cuts are going to be a real part of how we balance our budget over the next year. And if Congress, and the Senate in particular, fails to take action to ensure that municipalities and states can make up their budget shortfalls, it's going to put a lot of people in really tough situations. The CARES Act dollars are important because they help make up for the unexpected costs, the need to buy increased amounts of protective equipment, for example. However, CARES Act dollars cannot be used to fill budget holes. So we can't apply a couple $100 million of CARES Act dollars to make up for room tax revenue losses. So unless the Senate takes up this really important bill that's come out of Congress that says, here is money to states and municipalities to fill their budget holes, then we as lawmakers are going to have to make tough decisions about where those cuts are. And I'm certainly not looking forward to that. And I hope the Senate takes quick action to pass the bill.
You've heard, as well as I have, that there are people in the public that are saying that the private sector has taken such a hit. Why hasn't the public sector taken a hit? How do you respond to people who say things like that?
It's tough to correct anyone's feelings, and that's certainly a sentiment that is shared by a lot of folks who are sitting at home because their employers had to shutter and who are fearful about what the future holds for them and their families. So I understand where the essence of that critique comes from. However, the public sector has been largely tasked with handling an unprecedented crisis in ways that have, in many cases, stretched our public sector workers really thin. So I'm thinking not only of frontline workers who are doing work in our hospitals, but of folks at places like the Southern Nevada Health District, who are one of our largest public health forces in the state, that have had to take on workloads that they've never had before. And I think in this moment, our public sector employees are playing essential roles. And it may be that based on the way our budget discussions are moving, that there will be severe cuts in the public sector. I hope we can avoid that. But there's, to me, no question that the economic impacts of this are going to affect employees and employers in the private and public sector alike.
We're hearing a lot of talk about 2 special sessions coming up. How soon do you think the first one is going to happen?
I don't like to speculate on something that I have I'm not sure. The short answer is I don't know. I don't know how many special sessions there will be. I don't know when they will happen. I know that we have a constitutional and public duty to make sure that we end this fiscal year with our budget in the black, and that we prepare a budget for the next fiscal year that allows us to meet our responsibilities. So I recognize that that is something that we're going to have to discuss potentially in a special session, but I don't want to speculate as to when or how that will happen.
Did you agree with Senator Keffer that it needs to happen sooner than later, that the sooner that we can have a special session, the sooner that we can address the needs before it becomes too late?
I don't know that there's a right or wrong time or that it needs to happen sooner or later. I trust our fiscal staff at the legislature and the governor's finance office to do the analysis to make sure that our budget is moving forward and that we will go into a special session when the timing is appropriate.
Let me bring up another topic that's come up. The other side of my business beyond running Nevada Newsmakers is running an advertising agency. And I have a bunch of clients who are reopening up under the governor's authority, and they are trying to bring back workers that they have furloughed. And the employees are telling them, you know what? I'm making $600 a week extra on my unemployment. I'm making more money staying at home than I would be coming back to work, so I ain't coming back to work. And this is not from one company I'm hearing, this is from multiple companies. What are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before. The majority of emails that I've been getting from constituents and from folks across the state are folks pretty desperately seeking to go back to work. So it's interesting that there are folks making more on unemployment than they would be with their employer, and I can understand why in such uncertain economic times there would be an attraction to staying with a stable and increased income. It certainly puts employers in a precarious spot, but it's not something I've heard. I had not heard that until just now, so I don't know how widespread that is.
I would say to you, at least in northern Nevada, it is fairly widespread. But let's take a break. We'll come back more with Senator Cancela after this timeout.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robinette, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Yvanna Cancela. She's the co-majority whip, and she is a Democrat. Jeremy Arguello said on this program that this downturn could last from 18 to 36 months. He is somebody who advises everybody from the state to the major businesses in the state. Does that scare you that it could last 3 years?
Well, I don't know that scare is the right word. It certainly gives me pause, and it makes me think a lot about how painful that's going to be for families across our state, and how important it is for people like me who are lawmakers, how important it is for leaders in the public and private sector to make sure that what we're putting at the forefront of our decision making are families that are now thinking about what it would mean if for the next 3 years they don't have access to job opportunities. What does that mean for kids who are graduating and are thinking about where they find jobs? There's the uncertainty and the anxiety that those kinds of numbers create for families is where I think we should start thinking about our responsibility as policymakers. So for me, as an eternal optimist, it makes me think about the opportunity we have to take a look at what wasn't working and how we can use this moment to be creative and thoughtful about creating solutions, how we can take this recovery time to not only recover economically, but to start thinking through what we value as a state and what we want to see this next chapter of Nevada's history read like. It's really an opportunity for innovation and thoughtfulness and deliberation and real collaboration and thinking through how we rebuild our community and go through some pretty severe struggle together. So it's I like to think of it as an opportunity, but I take serious concern for what that means for our Nevada families.
All right, so I want to, first of all, thank you for saying that, because I too am an optimist, and I too am somebody who's an entrepreneur. And so I look at every situation as an opportunity, because in good times or bad times, there are some people that make money and there are some people that lose money. And so, for example, as I said earlier, my business is an advertising agency. There has never been a better time to advertise, because the advertising costs are so cheap right now, because the TV and radio stations and newspapers need the money, and so they're cutting all kinds of deals. If you're a company that has money in the bank that can afford to advertise, this is the time to go ahead and do it. I'm not saying on Nevada Newsmakers, I'm saying period. Call your TV or radio station or newspaper, they'll cut you a deal. And the creativity that we have as Americans will allow us to develop new ideas, new technologies, new ways of thinking. And I personally don't think it's going to be a 3-year cycle. And I think economists, rightly, like lawyers, will give you the worst case scenario, so you're prepared to deal with whatever you have to deal with. But if it's less than that, then okay, fine. It's like going to the doctor. So I'm glad to hear that you have a similar thing. And by the way, congratulations on passing out as a lawyer now and going to take the bar later on this year.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, feels good to be done.
I'm sure it does. All right, so let's talk about some other issues here, because we have, unfortunately, other problems to talk about. The university system. This is going to take a massive hit. I've been reading reports over the last couple of days about major schools with major endowments who are looking at financial crises, massive layoffs of faculty, etc. How do you think this downturn is going to affect Nevada's university system? Obviously, they're not going to see any kind of increase, probably a major decrease in funding from the state.
Well, like every other entity in the state, there's going to be a compression. There will likely be less students enrolled. There may have to be cuts across the higher ed system. However, there are opportunities to use CARES Act dollars to invest in students and invest in our institutions. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about how we make sure we use those dollars to move our university system, our higher education system forward, because what has been made very clear over the last few decades, especially as UNLV and UNR have become tier 1 research institutions, is that our higher education systems are a pathway for workforce development. They're a pathway for our students to succeed and to, in some cases, enter new fields, to enter new and emerging fields, whether it's in green technology or in healthcare. And so we can't we can't afford as a state to make cuts that prevent us from having the tools to emerge into our next chapter. So I would like to work on making sure that whatever cuts are necessary, because inevitably there will be cuts across the state, that we don't sacrifice the innovation and the research and the advancements that we've made across our higher ed system, but especially at our public universities, because we know we need those institutions not only to diversify and grow our economy, but to ensure that the students that we are actively telling in our public high schools and our high schools across the state that they have the opportunity to be whatever they want to be, that we need them to be the next generation of leaders in Nevada, that we have the institutions that can make those opportunities a reality for them.
And even though everything you've said I agree with, but in your heart, do you really think that we are going to be able to move forward without serious damage to the university system, as it is across the country?
I like to think that we will avert serious damage, that we will stay on the spectrum, that if we're looking at it as a spectrum, that will stay in mildly painful as opposed to seriously damaged. But it's really hard to know just how deep cuts and budget measures are going to need to go. And I just to take a step back, I will say that all of this, all of our economic challenges rely on us continuing to follow the public health guidelines and doing the work to ensure that we continue to decrease the number of coronavirus cases, that we continue to keep our healthcare system at stable levels. So if we as a state are committed to trying to minimize the most painful of economic damage, whether it's in our higher education system, in the private sector, across the public sector, we have to continue to do the public health work of wearing face coverings, of washing our hands, of practicing social distancing, because the public health crisis is directly intertwined with our economic crisis.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be back with Senator Cancela after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Senator Yvanna Cancela. She's the co-majority whip. Senator, I have to ask you, because obviously it's been big news in the last week, your thoughts on what happened with Senator Horsford and what you think is going to be his political future, if he even has one, after these revelations.
Yeah, I can't speculate to someone's political future. Congressman Horsford has done great work as a congressman, as a legislator, and I respect his request for privacy as he deals with what is likely a really tough time for his family.
Well, you know, and I do appreciate that, but I mean, Jim Gibbons went through this, a circumstance like this, and there was no respect for his privacy. John Ensign went through this, and there was no respect for his privacy. And in light of the Me Too movement, I mean, do you think that you know, all of this has an effect on, you know, the potential for him to hold that CD4 seat?
I really can't. I can't speak for the voters of CD4. I can only speak for myself in saying that I was not a legislator during Governor Gibbons' time, nor during Senator Ensign's time. But in this moment, I am going to follow the congressman's request to respect him and his family's privacy.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time always to be on the program. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully with better times.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Thank you. And we'll be right back.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Kenny! Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow! This stuff is great! People are gonna love it!
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.